If you've been following the story, you've probably heard what happened in Unizik, the incident involving a lecturer and a student. And when the whole thing came out, people were sharing their viewpoints and all that. And I decided I wasn't really going to say anything until when the school had taken a decision. And I think it was yesterday or so, the school took a decision to expel the young lady. Now, there are so many things, so many lessons for us to pick up along the way. While this whole thing was going on, I saw a lot of comments. Some were against the girl's action, and so many people felt that she was rude, she was rash, and others, surprisingly, felt the lecturer was the one that did wrong. They felt the lecturer was the one that triggered the girl's action. And then people began to debate about touching or not touching. He touched. Some even went the extra mile to zoom to see where the lecturer was holding the girl's um, cloth. At a point, there was some indication that he tried to assault her, he tore my dress and all sorts of things. Now, it raised a lot of questions. Some people even brought up the point that, oh, what if this had happened behind closed doors? What if the video in question was not seen by anyone? What if it wasn't her own phone that captured it? She could have probably come up with any story, and then you know how society is. Everyone would generally feel that a lady that cries foul is the victim. Sometimes she's not. So now let's analyze this whole thing. And like I said, the school took their decision, and I honestly think it was just. Even though I would have maybe thought of maybe a 1 year suspension or something, not an outright expulsion. But then again, this might even be better for her, because if she had been suspended and the girl had gone back to the same school after 1 year, trust us now, people will make things difficult for her, and then there's already that stigma. She might become a victim of lecturers and all that in school. All right, so now let's look at it critically. A few points to note. Number one, this girl was doing a TikTok video. Sometimes I'll even ask myself, we talk about Gen Z, we talk about this new generation and all that. You see, yeah, you should let people be free and do things that they want to do, but these are still kids to a large extent. The fact that you rush your child who is 16 or 17, and then they get into university, they're in 300 level, they're in 400 level, even some NYSC, some doing masters, even some we see on the job. I worked several years in the bank. We met some, and they were working there in the office, and you expect that these kids, in quote, will naturally be transformed just because they are in a particular place. No. Maturity does not come with age. Sometimes it also does not come with your placement in life. So every now and then, your mental reasoning will always show up to either disappoint you or to elevate you. And I think this was the case. So you're in school, you're supposed to be having lectures, you're in 300 level, and what was more important to you was a TikTok video. Now, I don't have a problem with doing those things, but you know that even for people who are more mature, being able to manage social media entails a lot of discipline. How much more kids? Some schools, some private schools, they don't even allow kids to bring phones. They don't allow those children to bring phones, Android phones. Many of them is just those Nokia, those touch light phones for basic communication. And so when you see things like this, you begin to tell yourself, maybe those guys had a reason for making those kind of decisions. You might say it's harsh, you might say they are archaic, you might call them whatever, but you don't have issues like this, certainly. And so this girl is doing a TikTok video, and she's in the walkway, right? It's not your father's house, it's not your own zone. You're in a place where other people, other students should be passing. Okay, everybody gave you space, but then somebody comes, barges into your video, spoils your video, spoils your video. And so you turn, he's a lecturer, and you say, who does he think he is? That kind of statement. You see, sometimes we need to begin to come back to family values, national values, those values of respect. One time they took history away from schools and all that, and then we wanted to copy the West at all costs. Yeah, copy the West, but copy the positives from the West, not just everything from the West. Don't copy disrespect from the West. Don't copy things that are not okay. The West may be ahead of us, technologically, they may be ahead of us in other areas, and it's mostly because of poor leadership. I'm telling you that Africa has everything it takes to be on top of the world. Unfortunately, poor leadership. And our biggest destruction has come from within. But then now, the fact that it has happened, those basic things about respect, about cultural values, about looking up to elders, I'm not saying elders are right all the time, but basic respect for every human being. Now, I have children, and I teach my children to respect everybody, not just because they are high there, but every individual deserves to be respected. I worked as a head of so many people in an organization. And I treated the gate man with dignity as much as I treated the cleaner with dignity. If we have issues on the job, we are going to tackle it. But don't let a person lose their dignity on the basis of the kind of work they do. Right? So now in this case, who does he think he is? And that's the mindset of the average Nigerian. You hear people fighting on the street. Next thing, do you know who I am? We carry this thing about there's something about me. Maybe I have one backing somewhere and all that. And you feel that it's a reason for you to disrespect other people. No, it's wrong. So I expected people to come out and say, hey, this is a no-no. You don't come out fighting, you don't come out biting somebody, whatever the reason. And then you now discover he's a lecturer, you discover he's older than you. I'm not saying it gives people who are older than you the right to treat you, but this was clear. This was clear. This was obvious disrespect. It was obvious disrespect. And so, children who go to school should know why they went to school in the first place. You didn't go to school to do TikTok. Yes, maybe you might be a content creator and make money from it, but there should be a time, maybe create a zone. Go get somewhere else and shoot your videos. It should not interfere with your academic work. There's the reason you came to school. Your parents are paying your school fees. So how does it feel now? 300 level, you get expelled. What kind of grief have you brought to your parents because of that behavior? Now, secondly, at a point I wrote that I was waiting for the mother of the girl to speak. So let's check something. And then people were teasing me, people were laughing and all, and said, no, it should be father and mother. Yeah, basically, training. Most people will look back to your parents because they said the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. They will look back to your parents. They'll go back to your parents and say, okay, was this child trained well or was this child not trained well? This child put her mother in the spotlight. The mother is a lecturer in the Department of Engineering in the same school. So your mother is there minding her business, doing her work, and suddenly people begin to talk about your mother. They begin to say your mother did not train you well. But I beg to differ. Now, it is true that sometimes the way a child behaves is a pointer to the kind of mother she has. But it might also be that a parent has done everything to bring up a child well, and then eventually the child decides to turn out the way they want to turn out. There are many cases like that. So I would say, in as long as the mother did not come out to display or put up a rash behavior as well, or say something which didn't make sense, or say something which seemed to be like she was supporting the girl, we should leave the mother alone. And this girl is an adult, she's in university now, she's old enough to write jam, old enough to do TikTok videos, so she should be old enough to also bear the consequences of her action. So let's leave the mother alone. But unfortunately, we have kids who put their parents in bad light. We don't know their story. We don't know if dad and mom are together. We don't know the story about her upbringing. So I'd rather leave her mother out of it. Sometimes our parents train their kids well, and then it's left for the children to decide whether they want to keep up in that line of good home training or not. But then it's a call for the whole of society. My friend's father of blessed memory used to say, that if someone goes to the center of church, you use church as an example to defecate or pass to, which is obviously a no-no, it's a wrong thing. You're desecrating a place of worship. That's You will still find some people who will support that person. You still find some people that will say, leave him alone. It's his father's house. Where else will he have gone? You still find people like that. Oh, do you want him to do it in his trousers? You want him to do it in his pants? Leave him alone. Let him relieve himself. Is this not a free world? You will always have people see. No matter what you do, people will support you. And sometimes your biggest haters are the ones that support you when you are doing wrong. Yeah. They will cheer you on to destruction. And so every young person listen to me. There's a place for wisdom, there's a place for technology, there's a place for being woke and all, but there's also a place for respect and regard. You need to look around you. Anything you think you are doing now, anything you think you have achieved or you have done, there are those who have gone ahead of you. Yes, they may not have witnessed it in the same generation as you, but people have gone ahead of you. People have seen everything. The headmaster was once a schoolboy. And so basic respect is essential. Please, please respect the human being. It doesn't matter whether they are your lecturer or your parent. It doesn't matter whether they are richer than you. We should have mutual respect for each other. So that's where it even begins. Without her needing to know if it was a lecturer or not, respect for any human being. And then he came back, people say he shouldn't have come back. I heard all sorts of commentaries. So are we now saying that the lecturer is on the same pedestal with the students? Is that what we are saying? So we are now putting them on the same level. We're now trying to bring a lecturer and a student to now start judging a case. Now, if the man had hit her, or if the man had slapped her, like some people say that, I cannot take that kind of thing. If I be the person, this girl will see. People said all sorts of things that they would have done. But it is calmness for me, because if he had also hit her or something, or assaulted her, then yes, the matter may have been different. But this man was calm in the midst of provocation. And then you went on to bite him. We don't go to school to produce vixens. We don't go to school to produce wild animals. We don't have these institutions to produce um, children who cannot control themselves. These are the same people who say they want to be in leadership tomorrow, and you cannot control yourself over a basic somebody interrupting your TikTok video. So what if something happens in your organization, your office, and then maybe they spoil your name? I mean, something major. What will you do? You bring the whole building down. So these are basic things. People go to school, and you don't place a student and a lecturer on the same level. I'm telling you the truth, because aside just coming to teach you, they are also supposed to be your mentors. They don't need to be a lecturer from your department. They are supposed to be your mentors. If not for the days we are where some have abused this privilege, they are supposed to be people you should look up to. They've been there before you. They've seen several students pass through the system. They've lectured many students. They've seen all sorts. And these are people you should be meeting for advice. But here you are, fighting and biting. I think that's absolutely wrong. And when we see what is wrong, we need to condemn it in its entirety. So, like I said, the school decided, and they must have thought about it very carefully. You know why? If this girl had gotten away with it, and I'm sure that's why the mother also did not interfere, because the mother is a lecturer. That thing you are doing to another lecturer, how will you feel if someone else did it to your mother, who is also a lecturer in the same university? And so when you are connected as a person, as a student, or maybe you have someone in power, that's the more reason why you should behave yourself. Behave yourself. One time I got into an organization, and there was a powerful person who, aided me get into that organization. I was not in the spotlight. I didn't go around looking for trouble. I didn't go around making trouble or troubling everybody to let them know that I know this person. No, I was like every other person. I did what I needed to do. I treated people right. I did the work I was given to do. You don't abuse power. I think it's Pirelli that says power is nothing without control. You don't you don't go around showing off because you know somebody in one office somewhere. So that may not have been the case here, but it's some of this arrogance seems to have come up from the fact that maybe my mom is still working in this school. So anyhow, it is nothing will happen to me. So like I said, if this lady had been let to get off with this, it will have been victory of student over lecturers. And I'm telling you, what would have happened? Not, this is not just, it wasn't about Unizik alone. It was about the whole country. You'd have seen by the next day, all over the country, students doing TikTok videos all over the place, maybe in front of lecturers' offices. You would have bastardized the whole educational sector in Nigeria. So I think that was a very wise decision to make it clear that our ivory towers are for educational purposes and not just for all these things that we do. Yes, do your TikTok videos, nobody's stopping you, but then for you to throw away 3 years, because sometimes you weigh things. Is this thing as important as long term? I've spent 3 years in an institution and then I get into a fight with the lecturer. I mean, what happened? What happened? What happened to reason? What happened to restraint? What happened to self-control? What happened to saner ways of resolving issues? So they took a decision because I know even ASU would have probably stepped up because it's an abuse on the whole lecturers in Nigeria. Do you know what it means? On all the master degree holders, on all the PhD holders, on all the professors in Nigeria, because they would have taken it a notch higher. They would have felt like they were invincible. So every student will start saying, "No lecturer has the right to talk to me. No lecturer has the right to intimidate you, especially when you're in your right." But in this case, girl, you were totally, totally wrong. And I feel that the Nigerian populace should come to a point where we begin to address things that are evil as evil with the same voice. No wonder we have the kind of leadership we have in the country, because instead of you to dwell on major issues, you are dwelling on non-essentials, things that are not so important. Yeah, I've had this conversation with a couple of my friends who believe that the man was wrong, but I'm just amazed. But I want to end with this too. I want us to be a lot more tolerant. When people share their opinions, sometimes we just come off and we attack them. I read a lot of views and I was like, how would you say this kind of thing? But I think we should be tolerant. Somebody shares a viewpoint and you don't agree with it, you should just come off and start insulting him. It doesn't show maturity. You're not different from the TikTok girl. So I don't know what will be next for her. Will she become an ambassador of TikTok? Will she do something in social media and all that? Or will somebody want to prove a point and now give her a scholarship abroad, or set her up doing something just to prove a point? I don't know. But remember the case of these boys that were found dancing in their office the other time, and they were sacked by the organization. Everybody cried foul, everybody shouted at the organization. They insulted them, they almost cancelled them. And then eventually somebody who had a good heart came and sent the children abroad. You saw what turned out. So bad behavior is bad behavior. They went abroad and it didn't end well. It didn't end well. In fact, they turned against the person that helped them. So that means that organization that sacked them probably saw something that other people did not see. So sometimes when you see bad behavior, just call it out for what it is. Say this is bad behavior rather than running analysis about it. So those are my thoughts. I promised I was going to share it with some of my friends, and I'm sure they are waiting for this. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Thank you. Michael O. Wangwa. Bye bye.